Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the March 27th, 2025 work session of the Portland Harmon Union Free School District Board of Education. Item 1.2, approval of the agenda. Recommended action be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
One more second.
Neil?
One more. Right about it.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Turning to our work session, item 2.1. The 2025-26 budget reports, building level and people personnel budgets. I will turn it over to Superintendent Walker.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to everyone who's here in person, and thank you to those who are watching at home. We have a robust and exciting presentation in front of us tonight, so I'll speak briefly. I just wanted to say that aside from elbow to elbow, one of my favorite terms to use is that budgets are not just about dollars and cents, they're about vision and values. And tonight, to be honest, is one of the more exciting board meetings of the year for me, because we get a chance, and the public, the community gets a chance to hear from a phenomenal leadership team about not only the work that's been done in the past year and the work that we anticipate doing in 25-26, but a broader and longer term trajectory for the work of our schools and the experience of our students. So what you'll see tonight is a series of presentations beginning from Rachel and then from CET, PBC, and the high school that speaks really four things. First, the work of 24-25 from the current school year that we feel great about and that have continued to advance the experience in our schools. Secondly, what we're looking forward to in 25-26 in the upcoming 12 months of the experience of our students and how the budget serves to support that. They'll share information about the facts and figures related to their particular buildings and departments related to that budget proposal, and then some discussion of longer term vision and where all this work is taking us and taking our students in the years to follow. So this is genuinely one of the more exciting board meetings of the year for me, and I'm excited to get it started. We'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent for PBS, Rachel.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So tonight we will begin with my budget, and then we'll lead into CETs, PBCs, and CHUFSD. There are common threads amongst us. That's why I always tend to present with the school, because PBS is, heavily involved in the daily operations of the school and the supports for all students. So tonight, as I present the people personnel budget for the upcoming year, we're reminded of the powerful foundation that supports our school community. Our vision is as outlined in our beloved vision matter. Centers on a culture of well-being where each child's unique needs are met and where we foster an environment that promotes emotional, social, and academic growth. At the heart of this vision is the belief that strong, meaningful connections are essential. We know that building direct relationships with our students and families is a cornerstone of creating a supportive learning environment. So creating a sense of community within our schools is not just an ideal, it's vital to the success of our students and our families. So tonight, as we walk through the budget of our schools and PBS, we will highlight how these investments align with our commitment to nurture the whole child and create positive, inclusive environments where every member of the Croton school community can flourish. So we will begin with our department picture, which was a lot of fun to kind of get everyone together, because a lot of people tried to run out of the gym. So I had to kind of start blocking and calling names on the microphone to get everyone to come back. Some may have slipped away, but this is a very, very experienced, thoughtful, and innovative group of special educators, clinicians, providers of services to our multi-language learners and support staff. So I'm very proud of the work that we are doing together as a department. Right. Say again.
You're not in that photograph?
I orchestrate the pictures. Okay, great. Yes, you could play. This is just a little snap.
20, go ahead, Xander.
25, 30, 35, 50.
40. Go ahead, Carol, Isabella. 45.
45, 45,
45.
45,
50.
50, 55, 60.
Woo, keep going.
65. Actually, come here.
Good job, keep going. 85.
90.
Yep, 95.
100.
Woo, Jaden. Listen to Jaden now. 100
5, 110, 150, 120.
That is just a little snapshot of what our Spark One program does. You know, the integration of, you know, kinesthetic activities, multi-sensory opportunities for learning and retention of skills. So that was like a second or third lesson in multiples of 5. So, you know, it wasn't exactly sticking, you know, so, you know, incorporating the kinesthetic and physical aspect of it really helped the kids generalize and retain those skills. Okay, so I want to highlight some of our, the great things that we've done over the course of this past budget year and financial fiscal year. So we onboarded a new social worker, and you guys have met her at our department presentation at one of the work sessions. She's the first for our district. She has done major work in making connections with our non-English speaking families and community resources, supporting the families in comfortably integrating into our school community. You know, our families have reported that they feel welcomed, they feel heard, and they feel supported. And they can actively engage in the education of their child because they have liaisons like our community aid worker and our bilingual social worker to support them. We have invested and we will continue to invest in specialized programs. So the expansion and the enhancement of our targeted programs, those programs that we've been very thoughtful and strategic in creating to meet the needs of our very diverse learners, they have grown exponentially. You know, now we're starting to see children that have made such growth start to mainstream more into the school community. And that's what those programs are for. Build the skills, build the independence so that students can gradually integrate into the mainstream settings. Our unified sports, Steve kind of highlighted, you know, he was the star of the unified bowling game this week.
118.
118. So our unified team is an integrated team. So it's 50% typically functioning students and 50% students with disabilities. So first season is bowling, and then the second season is basketball. So we just closed out our bowling season, and now we'll be leading into basketball in the next week or so. It is so heartwarming to be at these events and see the kids, really the level of sportsmanship and compassion and support that the students show for each other. It gives you chills. It really, really does give you chills. And there were a lot of students that wanted to participate, typically functioning students that wanted to participate to support their peers at school, which was great. And the 2 coaches have made it such a great learning experience for them. So it's definitely something we want to continue to grow as the years, you know, go by. So with the work of our social worker and our community liaison, we've enhanced and expanded partnerships with community organizations. With the experience and the relationships the social worker had from Lower Westchester, she was able to make that connection with Croton because we're such a little, you know, such a little pod and little community that we don't really realize what's out there, what's accessible to our community of living in Westchester. So we have, I'll go on in a later slide about all of the connections and how those resources have best supported our needy families and our families that just need some support to get, you know, on their feet. This has definitely been a catalyst for that growth in that community as well. We have invested in expanding the depth and breadth of the assessments that we use to identify students with disabilities and really work to dig deeper into the concerns that the parents have and or the teachers have that are making referrals to the Committee on Special Education. So we've invested in some very intensive, maybe time-consuming evaluations and evaluative materials, but they are really creating a picture and a profile of the students that help us as a CSE meet their needs, you know, more directly, and we're able to target those skills to support the students. We onboarded a part-time ENL teacher at CET. The kindergarten registration last spring, that really led into the summer, showed a major increase in our incoming kindergartners that had a minimal English language. So through a screener that's done over the summer, late June, early summer, we identified about 13 incoming kindergartners that needed the maximum number of minutes. So we had to really rush and identify that, the need and try to manipulate the schedule to see how much our current ENL teacher was able to support with grades 1 through 4. And then we realized that there just wasn't enough minutes in the day and or week for her to accommodate all students. So we posted and hired a 0.6 ENL teacher to support the upper grades and our current sitting ENL teacher supporting the K1s. Additionally, interpretation services, the need has grown over the course of the past 2 years. So of course, the cost of providing that interpretation has increased. However, as I mentioned earlier, just allowing parents to be able to be actively engaged in their child's education is worth the investment. So just a little collage of some of the great things going on in our schools, supported by our pupil personnel department, counseling, special educators, our clinicians. We have pictures of sensory gym. We have an integrated art class, some hands-on activities outside in the hallway, integrated our trip to the botanical gardens with the Spark class. We have some partner classroom work celebrating and supporting Mental Health Month. Yeah, just some great things that we wanted to kind of capture and showcase here tonight. So I wanted to speak to our increased support, how we've currently, invested or how we've invested over the past 2 budget cycles and what our focus is for the upcoming school year. To help them. So in 2003, we welcomed our community aid worker, Spanish speaking. She works approximately 24 hours a week supporting families. She is the face that our entering Spanish speaking families see. She's there to help support them with registration and, obtaining the correct documentation, updating addresses, getting access to our online platforms. So she has really been a tremendous resource for our communities over the course of the past 2 years. The connections that she has is continuing to grow because as new families move in, they're like, oh, call Eva, she'll help you. Oh, call Eva, she knows how to, help you get that information from your landlord. So, word of mouth has really increased her connections with the community. Last year in the fall, we expanded the support with a bilingual social worker, and that's Carmen. And that was really in an effort to better serve our diverse and growing Spanish speaking and non-English speaking community. So as the number of, students and families entering in the communities increased, we realized there was a need for this level of support, as well as to serve our students in the schools as newcomers, right? That transition is very difficult. Our ENL teachers, our building supports team do work, but our social worker is able to help ensure that both the students and the families have what they need to feel part of the community. So in the upcoming year, looking ahead, we're hopeful to further enhance the team by exploring and exploring the possibility and hiring of a bilingual school psychologist at CET. So that role is vital to just support the mental health, the social emotional supports, and strengthen their connection to the community. And at the entry level of CET, because that's where we're seeing the highest number of entering non-English speaking families. So over the course of the past 2 years, as I mentioned, and then looking ahead, our goal is to continue to welcome and support our families, ensuring that Carmen and Eva have opportunities to help families exchange information, making that a very smooth transition with registering your child, making referrals to the Committee on Special Education, looking for resources that families need, and helping them make the connection to ensure that they have access to these services that are available. Parent engagement, the number of families that have been to parent-teacher conferences, school-wide events, district-wide events has increased exponentially because of the connection between our team. And they call up families, they text families, They send reminders, remember, we have an event tomorrow night in our ENL technology event, we have family literacy night. We have seen such great numbers and such a high attendance at these events that it really is, it's a testimony to the work that we're doing. And the fact that these families are grateful for what we're doing and they want to be involved. So we're constantly reflecting and evaluating. I meet with that team twice a month to ensure that, any upcoming events are appropriately marketed and messaged to the community, looking at identifying needs, what additional programs or supports do we need to consider to meet the needs of all of these families. They're constantly doing needs assessments through either phone conversations, digital surveys to ascertain what do the families want and what do they need to, help them feel as part of the community. So that really has yielded some good data for us to use in our current planning, that ongoing reflection of our current programs and practices, as well as determining what our needs are moving ahead in the upcoming years. So this was really just a highlight to capture all of the events that we have done to engage the Spanish speaking community. And this is ongoing. So our back to school nights there are Spanish speaking liaisons that are making calls to all families that Spanish is the language spoken in the home. So they're scheduling the parent teacher conferences, they're scheduling with my department to make sure that there's a translator available to accompany the parent through their rotation of classes. And that has shown, again, an increase in attendance and participation. We led a technology event where there were different tables for each of the online platforms with a translator and an English facilitator to help parents, sign up for Infinite Campus, access the parent portal, make changes to transportation, drop off and pickups. So that event is leading and supporting them and gaining their independence and being able to navigate, the same tools that the rest of the community navigates and accesses, and how we do the majority of our communication to families. Our community aid worker is in her third session of teaching English to adults at the library and the high school. I think most recently at the high school, she's running her classes. So she started at the library with a small group of people. It increased to about 20. Then, over the winter, it dwindled a little bit, but right now she's in a spring semester at the high school. She holds the classes on Monday. She has about 22 students and they are divided up amongst different levels of English. So she is able to differentiate for those parents and those adults in that space to help them gain the knowledge of the English language, feel comfortable in using it, in the school environment and accessing it within the community and accessing the community. So it's definitely a nice program that has been developed to support our adults. Buddy reading classes. We had a buddy reading event last Friday where the high school ENL students went to CET to read to the second grade class. They practiced and they scripted, they made visuals and associated vocabulary with a visual to teach the kids the vocabulary that they were going to read in the story. So it was a great event. We have multi-language learner family literacy nights. We had one at CET. We had Capes of Culture at PVC, and then we have one coming up in late April at the high school, where we facilitate roundtable and academic activities for parents so that they understand, the daily, responsibilities of their child, and they're gaining some insight into how can I best support my child in their education. We've had some fun activities. We had a Spanish author come and read her book. She's local from a nearby community. She came and read her book to the families at CET's family night, and she did a question and answer. She related, she was able to, connect with the families because of her story coming from Paraguay to New York, and, that really built the connection. And it really is a sense of and feeling of community in those spaces when we're together. This year, we invested in a transition coordinator for our ENL families. In the past, we were investing in Luca, which was an outside organization, but we felt that who knows our students and community better than our own staff. So two of our high school staff members facilitated high school success preparation nights and prepping the students for college and financial aid. And that's the second college prep presentation. So we are definitely in it, in it to support this community. Another little highlight. So increased community partnerships. We have the Sharing Shelf. The Sharing Shelf is located in Port Chester. They are essentially a clothing store. So we put in orders for students that require clothes. We take their size. They tell us what they need, jeans, sweatpants, shirts. And we put the order into Sharing Shelf. We send our courier down, he picks up the delivery and we deliver it to the kids. Westchester residential opportunities for families that are experiencing or are at risk of experiencing homelessness. We support them through the connections at WRO. 914 Cares is a resource center, almost like a dial-in. You call in, you tell them, what you need, and they'll connect you to the right community or, regional organization to help. Westchester Care Council gives out vouchers for childcare for parents that are having difficulty securing childcare and being able to go out and be gainfully employed because of such. They're able to get assistance provided through the Westchester Child Care Council. And we know our Croton Care has been a staple here, and they are definitely a big supporter of our school community. So our increase for social emotional support, as you'll see and hear from both CET and the high school, we are looking to continue to support our student community through increasing the level of social emotional supports at both CET and the high school. So we are hoping to increase staffing by one at each building to support our students, both clinically and as, students that are at risk. So the support that we're looking to secure is meant to provide academic counseling and guidance on the college admission process, provide social emotional supports, making connections with outside resources if we feel there is a need for something more therapeutic and intensive than what we would typically handle or support through school. Looking to be that bridge between school and home, engaging families to ensure that both the families and students feel successful and integrated into the schools. And we're looking to continue to improve the social emotional support and looking at the MTSS, so the multi-tiered systems of support, and increasing the interventions that we're able to provide to our at-risk students to ensure that they have all of the supports that they need as the demands continue to increase. So, as I mentioned, we are looking to increase one FTE at CET. We are looking to hire a school psychologist, specifically a bilingual school psychologist at CET. And we are looking to add a school counselor at the high school to grow the high school guidance department. Okay. Now the numbers. So you'll see that as far as salaries, the budget increase reflects the increase in the collective bargaining agreement. As far as salaries for our instructional staff, BOCES, you'll see there's reductions in our public tuition and our BOCES. So some of the children that were attending BOCES have shifted into more of a private day program. And the students that were attending another public school has decreased because they've kind of been shifted amongst the other two day treatment programs and the BOCES programs. But right now, the amount of students that are out of district has been stable over the past few years. We should see a bit of a decrease next year with some of the students that are aging out. But right now it's remained relatively stable. So there, as I mentioned, definitely a shift in tuition. BOCES is growing their programs, so they're able to meet the needs of some of our more therapeutic students, but we can always rely on the day treatment programs to provide the highest level of support for some of the students that require We do not have any students for a second year in a row, receiving residential, in a residential placement. And that's good news because we want students to stay in their homeschool community. As far as supplies, it's more in line with our spending and the needs department-wide because the PBS department does fund the PBS staff members in the other buildings, supplies as far as evaluative materials, any specific instructional materials that they require. And then, I'd like to note that I always try to be efficient and be strategic. But I develop programs here within the community so that children can have access to the least restrictive environment. So that's why, whether the number has been stable and or decreased, children are getting their needs met, and with the majority of those children getting their needs met here in the community, which is our goal.
On the salaries.
Yes.
The increase of 105, is that inclusive of the two positions?
No, no, the two positions are
At the
in the
school
building
building.
level budgets.
Thank you.
That would be nice.
2 for 1. And here's our little pie graph. Any questions?
Just so we're clear, the BOCES number, that's for BOCES special education services.
Yes,
So to the extent there is any charge for students who are at CTE, that will be in the high school.
in the building, correct, correct.
And I guess my other question is, the projection is that tuition residential is gonna be the same.
We maintain that in the event that there is a child that requires a residential
Okay,
facility.
so
Yeah, there's generally a lot of shifting between those three codes depending upon the needs of placement of the student.
Right, for example, if a student was in a private day program, but yet was experiencing, an intensive need for something more therapeutic and having difficulty maintaining safety within the home, typically CSE would shift and make a recommendation for the next level of placement, which would be residential. So this year and beyond, so we are working now with our transition coordinators for students with disabilities, similarly to the ENL transition coordinator, to develop a transition support program at the high school. We have identified specific students that have a profile that would allow for us to implement some semester-like programming to teach students soft skills, applications, communicating in the workplace, providing them with opportunities for community externships. So doing vocational assessments. So we're kind of working on structuring that now, which may take, another year or so to kind of get it off the ground, but we have community experiences at our middle school program. So that's really the foundation and the part where we're going to start, because those children, as they progress up through middle school and high school, they would be the ones that would be most connected to the transition support program, providing them with opportunities to successfully transition post-secondary to adulthood and out of K-12 system. We'll continue to refine programs based on student profiles. We do a lot of visitation and communication with preschools to try and get some insight into the students that will be transitioning to kindergarten to best plan for them as far as special education needs and or tier 2 needs within the school to help them transition from some day preschools that have a more special ed based or see it program foundation. So this, being able to visit schools, get to know the kids, it allows us to plan. Because we start doing that like November or January, so that we're able to look at the kids, identify where would their needs best be met once they come into school. And then additionally, as our students continue to grow and progress, their needs start to change and their needs evolve. And that's what we do as CSE chairs, the clinicians and teachers that support them. And we're hoping that over the course of the next, few years, we'll be able to really develop a brick and mortar family resource center, identifying and designating space within one of our buildings to be that ground zero for our families coming in. Because right now it's a bit fragmented, like Eva will meet someone here or Carmen will go here. So if we have one home base, that would be the most ideal to have that, continuity and parents know if I need this, this is where I go. So ultimately, that is our goal. Any questions?
Foreshadowing.
Stop and look, promise. Yes.
So just the transitional support program you showed a couple of minutes ago. I know from my work at BOCES. Imagine that there is such a program. Is this possibly, this initiative, or you anticipate that this may allow us to service in-district students with those needs who are now placed out of district, such as at BOCES for, because they need that, or is this for students you envision who are now in district, but who are not going to graduate and who need to transition?
So I think it's twofold. So the students that are placed out of district are there for very specific reasons that require a level of special education that we were at the time unable to support. But at every annual review, we revisit their needs and we see, is there a way to integrate them and bring them back to the schools, community, so that we can meet their needs. The transition program that you're thinking of is something a bit different. Those students are a very different profile than what I envision the transition program to be. However, there are aspects of that program in Yorktown at Putnam Northern that we are looking to tap into, if not to replicate here. Just for an example, they have an apartment on the Pines Bridge campus where students are able to learn adaptive living skills, right? Personal hygiene, making their bed, folding clothes, managing their space. So we're actually scheduling a visit with the principal of that part of the campus so that we can kind of look to see what can we replicate here in the community. But just as an aside, those students that we've started this program with, who we envision are going to be accessing this, while it's complete, the program, those students currently are accessing the laundry. They're taking, the lost and found clothes at one of our schools, they're laundering it, folding it, sorting it by sizes. So we have parts of what that particular transition program does, but the level of need for that particular program at Pines Bridge is those students have an intensive need, and the majority of them, their profile is more on the multiply disabled with coexisting disabilities that we do not service here within the homeschool community. So ours is more building a skill set that allows them to be employable in the event that they choose not to pursue a 2-year or a 4-year post-secondary option.
One other question with regard to a number of the different programs. I know when we established our elementary school ungraded or multiple year classrooms and so on, one of the things that we hoped or envisioned of the possibility that we would be able to provide services on a tuition basis to other school districts, which would bring revenue. Have we seen that? And do you anticipate that being a source of revenue or?
Yes.
And
The answer is yes.
to the extent you can talk about that. So we
Yeah,
can get that.
absolutely. So this year we have 3 students that are placed by their local district, their resident district through CSE, paying tuition to attend our specialized programs. We currently have 2 students that have done 2 full-day visits in our specialized program. And we had provided them with acceptance letters, so we'll be going to the CSE to see if we are the chosen program for those 2 particular students. But over the course of this school year, and we're only, 6 months in or so, we've seen probably about 20 referral packets to our programs. And I've rejected kids, only because I didn't feel that we could holistically meet their needs. But I am hoping that next year, the specialized programs that we can have a much higher enrollment. And the difference between our students that we're servicing in that program will be those tuition-based students. So I'm hoping to bring in more over the course. People are hearing about our programs. My secretary today just said, hey, Rachel, somebody from Pelham called and they wanted to know about the Spark program. I said, they want to know about the Spark program. I said, give me that number. So, we have directors come and visit us. We've had assistant superintendents of PPS come and visit us, clinicians visit our specialized programs here at the high school and at CET specifically. But we do have a specialized program at the middle school. So, we have been, it's word of mouth, I think, that is making the biggest impact in helping us become, get put on the map, for it, because I have families call me like, oh, I know so-and-so, her son comes from, Bronxville to Croton. Can you tell me a little bit about the program that you have there? So, yes, I'm hoping that over the course of the next few years, we'll be able to see a major revenue, a major increase in our revenue for non-resident tuition.
But understanding, and I know this is always we first.
Our kids first,
foremost,
absolutely.
Our kids first.
Am I gonna fill the class and then send our kids somewhere?
No, but there are some districts that really do this
No, I know.
as a
Right.
means to raise revenue, not just.
Our programs are going to run for our students, but if we have available space, we're going to provide and open it up to other public school districts, absolutely.
And I think that's just something.
Oh, yeah, it's been
clear
brought
to
up
the
before,
community,
absolutely,
So that we're not leaving our people, our students aside,
absolutely.
because we're chasing money.
Money's always chasing me, unfortunately, I'm never chasing money. But thank you.
So, I want to just commend you for the amazing work that is happening, by you and the team. This is just extremely impressive stuff. I had a question just about the welcoming and supporting families piece of the work. And I guess one of the themes between that and maybe the social emotional supports is that you're really trying to figure out how to create a welcoming environment for families as well as the culture of belonging that we talk about for families and students. And you mentioned the kind of continual needs assessment that you're doing to kind of figure out what's changing, how you need to adapt, et cetera. In both the kind of context of parent engagement planning, you can see you're doing it in the kind of identifying additional capacity needs on social emotional supports. So I guess I was wondering two things. One is, could you just speak to like what have you seen as the evolution and kind of the emerging needs in both the parent engagement planning and the social emotional support side? And now, and then what do you foresee in the coming years as kind of like even more capacity or different kinds of capacity in the future, given what you know now? And if you can kind of like look forward a little bit into what you see as emerging needs even past this coming year.
So I think just to capture like the last 3 years and what we've done, I believe that communication was probably the area that we were most deficit in, right? Providing materials, paper materials, stuff that was backpacked in the family's native language. So the staff at each building, has been working diligently and asking for translation, even using translation apps or, resources to provide accessibility to families. So I think that was our biggest area of growth. And I think we've really leaned into being proactive in that regard, where any of the opening year documents, we request like the end of June so that we could translate it, have it ready for you, or have it ready for mailings in August. The needs assessment, it's a lot of technology-based needs, I feel like. Some of the apps are a bit cumbersome, and there's so many of, apps and, access points that I feel like that becomes overwhelming for anyone, specifically someone that's struggling with navigating technology and school-based types of technology. Those I really see as the current need, and I think we're meeting those needs, and it's evolving, and it's a lot of one-stop shop. Like if you call saying, I need help with this, we're very responsive to those needs. And looking ahead, what I've noticed, and I believe the clinicians and school building leaders could also attest to, is the emotionality and the trauma that comes with, migrating into a new community, in a community where not everyone looks like you. And there's not, you're not overly represented in, a small village like this. So I feel like seeing more people that look like you has created a sense of comfort for some people, even though they confuse me and Carmen a lot, you know? So we both very helpful. I guess we resemble each other as well, but we do get mistaken, confused a lot. But with that, I think that with the increase in social emotional supports, we can really establish like newcomer groups. You know, Carmen just brought an idea to me today, and she said she spoke with Laura on the high school team about, she wants to do like a co-curricular, a newcomer co-curricular for new arrivals, and, you know, providing them with, you know, connections in the community, and really just kind of speaking about culture and, you know, what's expected of you in the community. So with the increase in the request for the increase in the staffing, I think that's in response to what we see and foresee to become a greater need. With the current climate, there is a lot of fragility. And, you know, the entire school community is supporting, you know, through that. But to have some touchstones and some, you know, people anchored across the buildings, so that it's not just one person that has to get called to respond to, I think that would definitely continue to meet the needs as they continue to evolve and grow. I hope I answered.
Yeah,
that.
no, that's great, thanks.
Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, thank you, Craig. Gonna work out for album?
Elbow. There. Opportunity for me.
Oh, wait.
So,
Thank you.
first, I'd like to thank everyone for giving us the opportunity this evening, for all the schools and for Rachel to go ahead with our proposals this evening. Our first slide here is kind of self-explanatory. I'd like to dive into a little bit more detail. If you'd like to take a look at the slide, this is an overview of our journey that began in 2021 through the present and where we plan on going for next year. The journey began in 2021 with the implementation of our house system. The house system enabled us to support the social emotional learning, foster school-wide relationships, and introduce students to multi-age K-4 school-wide experiences. Over the years, CET has added and enhanced our ITAD to create interdisciplinary activities and lessons and promote collaboration among staff and students. Instructional coaches now play an integral role in supporting teachers, offering professional development, investigating curriculum, and showcasing instructional strategies. This year saw all of our CET teachers pair with a colleague for multi-age teaming opportunities and the addition of a part-time literacy coach. Tiger Day started just this January, allowing for whole school learning experiences, innovative scheduling, and the ability for classes to experience interdisciplinary events and passion-based learning without scheduling barriers. These models and changes that you see in that timeline have us very excited not only for what has happened at CET, but what will continue to happen at CET.
Thank you. And like Rachel, we want to highlight some of the budget pieces from the 24-25 school year. Last year, we had put in for our part-time literacy coach. She has been an amazing resource in addition to our faculty providing professional development, piloting different assessments, researching different literacy programs, meeting with veteran and new teachers, collaborating with our other instructional coaches. I meet with that team every 6 weeks on a formal basis to check in, meet, and support their needs. And she really has made a wonderful addition to our faculty. So she does part-time ELA, AIS, and part-time literacy coaching. Our school counselor became our social emotional curriculum coordinator. That was a new position last year, which allows her to now meet with her own curriculum team to help solidify the implementation of our social emotional learning curriculum. Thanks to help from our budget last year and Chef, we reinvented our what we used to be called the projects room into the Tiger's Den, which is a really innovative learning space. At the moment, it is now our library. That is a very temporary pit stop as we start construction on the library. But prior to that move, we were able to see that innovative space used for a variety of different events. We've had up to 3 classes in there at one time working on multi-age activities. We've had Kindness Club activities where the senior citizens were invited in, and it just creates a space where cooperative groups can work. It's a neat place where kids just feel comfortable. They dig right in and sit down, and it's just a place for them to be excited about learning. Again, we added a section of second grade to support our enrollment for that grade level last year. Our ITAD collaborations with our general education teachers in lessons and units has increased. And then we had our Hegarty training and implementation for first grade as a tier 1 and second grade for a tier 2 and tier 3. And we were able to support the CET strings program by providing funds to have additional instruments purchased to store at school so that children do not have to travel back and forth or rely on parents driving their instrument back and forth. So again, an opportunity was provided for us to support the arts at CET.
Our next slide are going to show our 5 proposals that we're looking for next year at CET, starting with the school psychologist. We're looking to enhance our K-2 literacy program with purchasing some additional materials and looking at a different program. We're looking also at our grades 3 and 4 word study program. Once again, purchasing some materials to go along with the program. Also adding some co-curricular groups before school at CET. And also to improve our multi-purpose room sound system, something we've been looking forward to do for quite some time. Like I said, we'll go a little bit more into depth, but especially with the multi-purpose room, that's a room, not only do we house all of our lunches in there, but we do a lot of our Tiger Day assemblies. We also do a lot of our house activities. We have all of our presentations, all of the wonderful grade level productions that Marlena puts on. Of course, our back to school nights and a lot of our concerts. So we've really needed a sound system for quite some time. And I know in collaboration with Ellen's budget, we're looking to improve that sound system for our multi-purpose room.
The goal of our next few slides is to explain how those components fit into our vision map. So the first area we're going to highlight is the reimagining learning spaces. So this budget, you're imagining learning. So this budget proposal supports an addition of multi-age experiences and interdisciplinary experiences. Sometimes when teachers come and they're so excited about an idea and they want to try something new and they want to work with a special area teacher or with a support staff member, that takes additional money that we need to be able to say, yes, you can do that, and here's the money to be able to purchase what you need to support those ideas. Some examples of that we've seen so far this year was one of our third grade classes partnered with our art teacher and physical education teacher and did a unit around the Kids Heart Challenge, where in art we needed extra funds to purchase some extra materials so that they could make clay models, 3D models of the heart, where they then learned about the function of each part of the heart, painted it, labeled it, and then they worked with the PE teacher to learn hands-only CPR in conjunction with this last unit. So again, when those type of things come up and a teacher says, I'd really like to be able to try this new activity or this new unit, we are asking for additional funds to be able to support those innovative ideas. We are also looking at the ideas in a few of our grade levels next year of what we're calling team teaching. We went back and forth between co-teaching and team teaching. Co-teaching generally is associated with a special education and a general education teacher. In our team teaching model that we're proposing for next year, it would be 2 general education teachers and 2 classes, but the ability for the students in both of those classes to go freely between the 2 rooms and the 2 teachers and have the experience of working with a larger number of students, which really allows for a lot of differentiation in instruction, because kids can be grouped according to whether it's their interest, their passion, or their level within the same space of 2 classrooms and with 2 teachers, but it allows for groupings that would be enhanced by having 2 teachers. We are also looking at other ways to differentiate our learning groups. Craig mentioned the K-2 literacy program and materials and the 3rd and 4th word study materials. We've invested a lot of money in our previous budgets in having our teachers trained in a multisensory approach to teaching reading. We have spent a lot of time, professional development and collaborations with our instructional coaches on instructional practices to improve literacy instruction. It is time now for us to clean that up and have a consistent program that covers all aspects of literacy, K through 2. So we're talking about phonemic awareness, we're talking about phonics, we're talking about reading, and we're talking about writing. Our goal is to have consistent language approaches and resources K-2, so that if a student is in one room, it's not called a trick word, and in the other room, it's called a red word, in the other room, it's called a heart word. We're looking for consistency so that no matter what grade the child is in or which environment they're in, they have consistency in language, and we feel strongly that this budget will help support identifying that program. And in third and fourth grade, we're looking to find materials in the similar way to have consistency in word study programs in the third and fourth grade.
Thank you, Kerry. When it comes to dynamic learning spaces, don't know if everybody's able to see in the bottom left-hand corner of that slide. That is the proposed drawing for the new CET library. And that's a space that everybody at CET is really excited about. I'd say it's like our flagship space. This is going to offer our students, not only, you can see, flexible kind of furniture where we can move meeting areas around. There's flexible little stools, workspaces, computer stations. There's a whole steam room. There's a sink, there's countertops. So we can really dive in, project-based. It's wonderful. We're going to have a Promethean board on wheels, which could swivel all around. It just really gives CET a lot of opportunity to bring different programming into Rennie's space or our library space. Also is only going to enhance our Tiger Days when we're doing that multidisciplinary approach, and we need a larger space. You'll also see off to the side, we're going to have an official conference room in there where we can hold parent meetings or professional development, and we're really excited about that. And if you look at the way bottom right-hand corner, there's actually an entrance to that conference room, which you can enter through the main hall of CET. So anytime we've ever had to enter what's kind of our grade room in there, where we do have a conference table, we'd have to go through the library, interrupt the library to head through. But this enables us to be able to go right from our welcome center, bring our guests directly into a conference room. Another place we're really excited about is the Tiger's Den. Rachel mentioned before a guest author, our picture in the upper left-hand corner. That was our evening with our guest author, excuse me. You can see some of the innovative seating and mobile seating that we have in our Tiger's Den. It's great for a small group. It's great for a large group, kind of inviting everybody to a centralized space. And then, of course, as part of our facilities project, we're very excited about the CET amphitheater, which is, you could picture CET on our left-hand wing, which is kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. That space that kind of is an island within those three wings, that's going to be our new amphitheater. That's going to give us a space, and it's going to have like a little sail on top for shading and I guess for light weather protection. But we're going to have stadium seating in there. So this will be a great place for once again, multi-age groupings, school presentations, evening presentations, hoping maybe to get a sound system in there as well. So just a couple areas we're really looking forward to in the next couple of years.
And now we're going to talk about how this budget supports the cultural well-being. And the overarching piece to that is the addition of the new school psychologist at CET, which will help to support our current clinical team that works very, very closely together. Even though each of those clinicians has a defined role based on their title, we work very closely together. And when we have more support, it enables more in-depth use of our other clinicians. So with the addition of our school psychologist, we are looking for a stronger implementation of our Little Spot curriculum and having Robin Woolley be available more frequently for push-in SCL lessons, more availability and visibility at recess time for our students, as well as the ability to go in and co-teach some of our social emotional learning lessons with our general education teachers. And so again, the addition of that clinician, especially a bilingual clinician, will help support all of our families in a higher level than we are able to support them right now. It will help with testing of our students when students are in crisis and meeting the needs of our mandated counseling groups.
Thank you, Carrie. Our next slide is pursuit of passion and exploration. One thing I think for a very long time that CET has always envisioned and hoped for were some more student clubs in some of our co-curriculars. And what we love about this is it's staffed by our very own staff at CET. but it allows our staff members to share their passions and their interests with our students. And I'm sure I've said this before in a board meeting, when a teacher is excited about something and they're excited to share it, students are excited to listen, they become excited. So it really is contagious. So we're looking to bring 4 co-curriculars into CT next year. One will be a drama and a musical production. Okay, according to the instructor who may be leading that club, it's going to be like a mini Broadway where they will be building their own sets, building their own kind of backgrounds, making their own costumes, and of course, bringing it all into a drama format. We're also going to be asking for a debate club. What we love about this is this really focuses on critical thinking and problem solving, building up confidence of students. There's also a tie-in here to language arts, where you have a main idea and you're looking for supporting evidence to support your stance. So we love that. Mindfulness, we're always looking for ways for students to be able to connect with other students, to feel comfortable and to feel safe at school. And also a very cool one, I just learned about this recently, linear math, where you're actually replacing a number with a, and it's all kind of concrete, and you're able to do addition sentences, subtraction sentences, equations, multiplication and division by looking at a Cuisenaire rod with just the color of it and the size, and being able to put them together and building 3D models. So really a different way to look at math for our students, which we've never had at CET before. And lastly on there, we'll see our team teaching models. What I think, and I think Carrie would agree with me, what we love about the team teaching discussions that we've had, and we did present this just last week when we had our CET placement meeting with our PTA meeting. What we love about this is this came from our very own teachers. It's not as if Carrie and I said, hey, listen, guys, you know what, we're going to make some changes here. When we've been talking about the collaboration, when we've been talking about giving students different opportunities and different experiences at school, our teachers really take that to heart. So it really excites us when teachers come and say, you know what, we have an idea, can we try this? And when we're able to say, yes, we can try that. But what's great about that is not only are our teachers excited and looking forward to it and motivated, but it's really going to bring an outstanding experience where our students are now going to have 2 instructors who bring all sorts of not only energy, but their own specialties into a classroom. It's really going to allow us to increase our differentiation across lessons. And anytime you can bring 2 instructors together where they're collaborating throughout the day, collaborating with students and modeling, I think it's a win-win.
Marlene, I just want to say, if you were looking for adult participants in the drama and musical, the DO is ready. Yeah.
It's really gonna be a district office amphitheater. Dance all the time, board members too.
Rachel and Denise are excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can see that.
Contagious.
Right?
So our next slide is again, the breakdown of the CET proposed budget. Unless someone has specific questions about that, I'll let you kind of absorb us there, but I have some notes here if you have specific questions in regard to any of our proposed budget for next year.
Well, mine that just jumps out at the beginning in that first line, that, thank you, the change in that, in the curriculum development and supervision, what's driving that?
So a lot of our training expenses for the last couple of years were around IMSE and Hegarty, and that was a huge investment. We now have our entire K-1-2 teams, AIS and ENL trained in that. So there's a significant decrease in the money that we're asking for to support that professional development. That was a heavy lift for 2 years. We were so grateful to be able to give that, but since that training has now taken place, we can dial back on what we need.
And the new, and the program materials that you're talking about, for K through 2, and then the word study for.
That is in our.
Is that in
It's
this line?
included in here, yeah, it's included in there, yes.
Also, the implementation of the vision map. So we had planned a lot of travel and professional development around that. And so you'll see that across the board in all buildings.
Very, so on the curriculum development and supervision, so that's for the training of that curriculum.
Correct.
Training, travel.
We sent a
Okay.
lot of teachers out to professional developments and we did a lot of virtual, so all of that now kind of is curtailed. We're back to almost like if you went back a couple of years, I'm sure this budget line looks more similar to what it looked like a few years ago.
Okay.
There is still some PD money. We are always looking to support our teachers in that. We have, a few of our educators, including Craig and I, who do travel to conferences yearly to participate and usually present, and so you'll see that still in there.
And so in terms of curriculum assessment, where would that cost show up?
I know the budget code, but I don't know which one it's in here. Denise?
Actually, it's not really a budget question, it's more of kind of a process question around, and it's just coming up because I'm looking at the numbers. But, you know, the CET went through, I think all buildings went through a period of curriculum implementation. How do we know that this is the right curriculum that we're doubling down on, or, you know, where are we examining whether this is the right curriculum for our students?
So what we are looking at closely is aligning our materials now with the training that they've had. So we are very, you know, we know that the governor is going to be asking us each to do a curriculum review of our ELA programs. We currently do not have a solid ELA program. So we are using that curriculum review rubric and as a guideline for choosing the new program. So we're looking closely ahead of time at what programs have the least red flags, they call them. So again, we're really basing our decision on the guidelines that the state and the governor have put out for what would be a effective, and I don't want to say acceptable, but for lack of a better word, acceptable program. So we're looking at very reputable programs. The actual proof of whether it was the right program is a couple of years out. We are hoping to see a decrease in our AIS numbers. We're hoping to see, especially in 3rd and 4th grade, less children in need of that additional tier 2 or tier 3 support. But because we have not implemented a curriculum to date, that question is a little far out, but we're being very, very, for lack of a better word, picky and thoughtful. We are looking at 3 programs in depth right now. And we've been in contact with our representatives. We have people sending materials. We have curriculum teams and our instructional coaches piloting and reviewing all of the materials so that we make the best possible choice that we can.
Just like to add that in addition to that, we continue to, we're probably remembers that we have a universal screening that all students take.
Correct.
In the elementary schools through STAR assessment systems. So that covers reading and mathematics, and that's done 3 times a year. And now with the grace and talent of our coaches, we're able to really have those coaches just recently take some deep data dives with classroom teachers to really take a look at the analytics and the data that's derived and really link that back and target what might need to be strengthened in the delivery of curriculum as well.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
So I just have a follow-up to that in terms of clarification. With respect to the K2 literacy program and the brainstorming for word study program, that's something that's going to be selected this year and implemented?
It will be selected by the end of this year. We hope to have it selected by May 1st. We have spent the entire year from the initial superintendent conference day in August, looking at programs, piloting programs, meeting with representatives, testing different things. So our goal is to have a program for each chosen by May of this year to then be fully implemented in the 25-26 school year. But what's really great with a lot of the pilots that we've done, we will have teachers on each grade level that are prepared to support and kind of do some internal professional development and provide supports. Our literacy coaches, whether they teach a grade level specific or not, like our 2 instructional coaches are 2nd grade teachers, but they have been very involved in the looking at working with observing lessons in K and 1 so that they can also be a support to our teachers, even though it's not the specific grade level that they teach. So it's a full year of a lot of piloting, testing, dry runs, and using all of that feedback, and not only taking feedback from the teachers that are piloting it, but then having them kind of share their experiences with their colleagues, having those colleagues be able to look at tangible materials. What's really great is a lot of these companies have been amazing about sending samples so that teachers can really look through and pilot implementation. So it's really been a thoughtful, just a year-long process that will conclude in spring of this year for implementation next year.
Okay, thank you.
I have a follow-up on that. So if you're thinking, I mean, if you're looking to implement this next year, is there like a potential budgetary impact to that in terms of either bringing in materials or software resources, or how does that work?
So we've already budgeted for any software research that's been included in it. And what's really good is, and I don't want to say we've made a decision on a program, but the program that we are leaning heavily toward right now, embedded in their software, is online on-demand training, which is phenomenal. Because a teacher at any point, at any juncture, like you could say, all right, I'm moving into the unit on digraphs in second grade, and you can go on that site and you can put in the tutorial or the training for the digraphs in that unit. So it's very specific to each unit of study and each concept. So it's amazing that that comes with the program. And like I said, we currently have teachers in each grade piloting, so they have lived it. And they will act as resources to their colleagues as well. So again, we have some budget for professional development as needed, but it will not need to be sending an entire grade level to a training or having somebody in for an entire grade level.
Thank you.
Just want to ask a question about Tiger's Den.
Tiger's Den,
Tiger's Den.
Tiger's Day, we get all.
Tiger's Den, which
Yes.
is described here as an innovative learning space.
Mhm.
I know when we're talking about innovative learning spaces, and we hear from the middle school and the Indie Lab, an innovative learning space.
Mhm.
And we hear about what will be suggested is gonna happen at the high school in the innovative learning space down the hall. They have different setups and different things. And I know you mentioned, and Craig, that in the library, that will have a STEAM component with the 3D printer and the other things and a sink and kids to work with. How is, other than the flexible furniture, what are the resources that are in and will be in Tiger's Den?
Well, I think the greatest resource is actually the physical space. Because it allows us to bring 2 or 3 classes into that room. And as we move forward with with our collaboration, it's an area where a first and a third grade class can come down to do a hands-on project. They, like with the flexible seating, you have seating where it's comfortable for a kindergarten student or seating where it's comfortable for a 4th grade student. It moves around. You can kind of have one class in there for an hour. 3 minutes later, shuffle around the entire room and it's ready for another class. We also have good news, plenty of storage in the back of it. We have a Promethean board down there, but I wouldn't say it has anything special as far as like maker space or anything out of the ordinary technology, but it really gives us that flexible space where any teacher or class can sign up for it. And once again, it could be used for team teaching, it could be used for science, could be used for social studies. It could be used for our teachers when they do have professional development or for our coaches to go in there during a lunchtime to kind of turnkey something to a grade level.
Okay, so it's slightly different than the high school, because high school actually has different, the plans are to have different ways to section off parts of the room, et cetera. That's not the space, but it's how it will be used within the open space, the large space will be used.
And even just the furniture that we selected in that room is conducive to a variety of different configurations and collaborations. So we actually have 2 that they look like McDonald's booths with the seats, and we've gone in there and we see kids like kneeling up on it, leaning over, and they could be working on something that's entirely different from the group that's over on the couch or the group that's in the center horseshoe thing with their attention on the Promethean board. So it really just lends itself to comfort, accessibility to other students. When you're in a typical classroom and you're around a rectangle table, I'm thrilled we don't have desks that we have to configure out, but in a classroom, kids are, you know, you can only fit so many kids around that little rectangle table, whereas when you go down into the tiger's den, you can pull the low seating over, you can pull a cushion over, you can be sitting and doing, and we didn't even plan this, but somehow they ended up down there and they're working out great. We have, a set of gym mats on the floor in the corner of it. And so kids will go and huddle over there and work. And so it's really more about the environment that they're working in than it is about the resources. Those resources that you're referring to, like the Indie Lab and what the high school, that's more centered in our library because it's part of our library curriculum.
So, I mean, what you're describing seems somewhat similar to what happens in the middle school in that area where the seating has come in, where it's just a place for kids when they are working, you know, however they are comfortable working in groups and coming out of classrooms. I mean, it's different, but it's
Yeah,
one
we
of-
were very
yeah.
cognizant to make sure when we selected the furniture in there that there was enough seating for at least 2 classes plus. So again, it's the only place in the building that would be conducive to bringing that many groups together and still have all the children have access to whatever it is they're working on.
And it's very conducive to team teaching, where if you have 2 teachers or 3 teachers come together, they could give their lesson, and then it's very easy to break those students up into smaller groups to differentiate, and they can grab a pad, grab a chair, grab a stool and go in, you know, and then continue. And as a matter of fact, you know, it's so innovative, it's now our library.
So one other question real quickly, you talked about, one of the goals for next year is to improve the multipurpose room sound system. You know, the thing about that room, it serves multiple purposes,
Hence the name.
but it's also a very large box, which, as we know, has a very sound echoes, sound bounces off the walls. Sound system is not conducive to dealing with that. In terms of the cost and where that funds will come from, do you have any idea, Denise, do you have any idea where you may be looking to pay for that?
So we put it into, we're splitting, we can both talk to that. So, I met with, Ellen Motzkowitz before we made them, it's coming partially where we got an estimate for how much it would be to upgrade that system. And I have placed into my budget for half, and Ellen is funding the other half with her budget.
Co-sponsored initiative.
Yeah.
We're working elbow to elbow on it.
And Neil, if I remember, I think that original system is out of the 50s. Marlene might have a little bit more information, and if you've been to some CT events, it goes out at the most inopportune times.
I have experienced it. I'm wondering, is there anything in the budget related to that around just acoustic environment improvements in that space? One of the things that makes it a difficult space is that it is so live, so much hard center block and glass and the hard floors. Some acoustic baffling might make a significant difference in the effectiveness of our audio equipment, our new audio equipment that we put in there.
We agree, but it was not something that was attainable in this year's budget to add that in addition to upgrading the sound system.
Right, but from a capital project perspective, we are giving that whole space, facelift. And if there is money available within the capital budget.
I'm thinking just some simple Sonex padding on the walls would make a huge difference.
Yeah, and as I recall, there was a member of the community who a number of years ago donated some sound baffling that I think was Jeremy Goldfield.
We should find it.
Well, I don't know if it's still around.
It probably came out of some
You know,
studio that was being renovated.
no, it came out of some studio that was being closed, and so he donated to the school district. But I know that was, you know, just whatever he had, but it wasn't, you know, really comprehensive.
Yeah,
That's
that's very different from
what you're thinking about.
from actually hiring an acoustician to come in and do appropriate treatment of the space. And I'm just thinking that it might be actually more cost effective to do acoustics and audio equipment at the same time because the nature of the audio equipment may change depending upon the acoustics of the room.
So this is not a new sound system, it is an upgrade to the
Upgrade.
existing.
Right.
I just want to be clear that we're not investing in a full new sound system, it's just upgrade.
I understand.
I just wanted to ask, as you also discussed having that outdoor amphitheater added as to one of those spaces where you could actually do that. Did I hear you, Craig, say that you were thinking of doing at some point in the future? Did I hear foreshadowing as to an acute?
We would love to, we would love to. We'll leave it there for now.
Outdoor audio is even harder.
So go back to the budget, can you just briefly kind of go through a rundown of the major variances? And that, if you have that ready.
What do you mean by that?
Before Carrie jumps in, if I could just share, so. These budgets are done based on function codes, so unlike Rachel's, which is one function, she's 2250, so. It's broken down a little bit differently, it's broken down by salaries, BOCES, et cetera. The building level budget. I'm very sorry. The building level budgets have multiple functions. They'll have curriculum development, they'll have 2110, which most people know, which is instruction. They'll have guidance, psychology, et cetera. So within each of those functions are the entire budget. So it's salaries, it's other contractual services, it's substitutes, it's tutoring, it's supplies and materials. So within each of those, so where you'll see teaching, that's basically the 2110 code. So that includes BOCES and a number of other things. The other thing which you'll see throughout all the budget presentations, there are variances within salary. So when we are projecting budgetarily, we may say, okay, we need a guidance counselor. I say, okay, we need a guidance counselor. Then as we go through the budget process, maybe as we start interviewing, it's like, well, we really need a clinician. We need a psychologist or a therapist. So initially, again, the budget is finalized in April, right? So there'll be some shifting where it was originally put in guidance and then in May or September, we moved it to psychologists because it was a clinician. The other thing that I did want to point out is also last year, when this budget was approved, we had an unsettled contract with the CTA, which is our largest bargaining unit. So there was some contingency for salaries, for lane changes, for tutoring, and other contingencies. So now that we have a year to really reflect, look at where things are, we've shrunken that contingency considerably. So you're gonna see some tight lines. And also you'll see some shifts. So like, I think Carrie in particular, and I can't really say, I think we had originally had the bilingual school counselor budgeted in guidance. And I put the notes for you. There's some shifting of people.
Yes.
So you'll see those.
It
variances
says
there.
reclassified coding, psychologist and bilingual school counselor originally budgeted in guidance, now they're moved to psych.
Right.
Got the notes. Wait, so Omar, when you ask that question, it's hard for me to answer because to Denise's point, when I work on the budget, I'm looking at, like, these are broken down into like 7 categories. When I look at it, I'm looking at about 40 categories. And so it's hard for me to answer your direct question about when I put, I needed this for this, where that shows up in this, if that makes sense. And I don't mean to be vague, but like I said, I'm used to looking at multiple budget lines for specific things, not the broad categories.
And splitting them too, if they're doing like 40%.
Yes, so that's a variation of like a part-time FTE for, yeah. That was added and then flipped. And the other thing is each of these components, remember, includes the same thing, salaries, supplies, materials, BOCES, other contractual services, so it's really consolidated.
So some of the increases are offset by some of that contingency from CTA being removed.
Many, yes,
Which is,
yes.
yeah, okay. That's helpful context, thank you.
Any other questions about that current budget? And we just have one more final, there's our pie chart, which breaks it down as well. And then just our final looking forward, these are things that we aspire to look further into and would love to see as part of our vision in the future. So we talked about our team teaching models that we're very interested in implementing for the 25-26 school year, but looking ahead, we would like to research the potential for a multi-age classroom, for example, a 3-4 mixed classroom or a 2-3 mixed classroom. So that's something that we will be researching and looking for some models to see how that can look and how that would fit into our CET culture and climate. We would like to invest some money into our ICT classroom and ENL classroom redesigns. The reason that that's highlighted as a potential moving forward is because as our population at CET is growing, our ICT special education teachers who once had their own standalone room are now losing those spaces, so they will be working full-time in the classroom with the general education teacher, and we'd really like to create learning spaces where it is conducive to that teaming, separate areas where there might be 2 Promethean boards so that classes can be broken up for instructional grouping where there's more flexible seating and movement. So we would like to focus on that to meet the needs of our ICT teams. And once we have our curriculum programs in place, we would like to then look at reviewing our report cards and assessments to align with those instructional practices and philosophies so that we're giving very specific and feedback to families and students that is aligned with our instructional practices. So that's us looking ahead. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very happy to share. Thank you for your questions.
One quick question about that. In terms of the ICT classroom design.
Excuse me, for the sake of the public, we have to watch these acronyms.
Right, integrated co-teaching.
Thank you, sorry.
Integrated co-teaching classroom. And you had said, I know that we still have the necessity to provide some individualized teaching by the special ed teachers that they do in their own spaces.
Yeah, so the way around that, so for example, right now, our ICT special education teacher in kindergarten and our ICT special education teacher in 1st grade, they have one room that they share and their schedules align so that one can be, like Miss Walters can be in there with a group, and at another point of the day, Miss Valentino is in that group. So instead of having their own separate classrooms, they share that space. Currently, our 2nd grade ICT teacher shares the space outside of Lisa Fry's room. Next year, we will be asking our 3rd and 4th grade ICT teachers to share one space. And again, their schedules align that they won't both be in there at the same time. So they will still have that space that they need for resource room and pull out, but the majority of their time as an integrated co-teacher will be in the one classroom. So we want to make those rooms conducive to that space.
So one other question, I know the board in previous years, and I just thought of this, has always gone through an analysis or has heard about class size and sections at CET. And I know we added a 2nd grade section this year because of class size needs. I'm presuming this, it's not in here, that there has been an analysis of class sizes in each of the grades, incoming K, which we don't know, but then 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that, we are not looking at an issue of either too small capacity.
That's usually presented in another meeting.
No.
I can tell you just briefly, I can let you know that
Other years, so.
at this moment, we are not 100% sure whether we will have 5 or 6 sections of kindergarten. We currently have 6, but our enrollment projections are lower, so there's a high probability that we would go to 5 sections of kindergarten. Our current kindergarten going into 1st will go from 6 sections to 5, which we are very comfortable with those numbers in 1st grade. Second grade will remain at 6 sections. The current 6 sections of the second grade will move to 3rd grade, and that's why we're adding a section of 3rd grade. And our current 3rd grade is supported by 5 sections of 4th grade. So we will have 5 or 6 of K, likely 5 sections of 1st, 6 sections of 2nd, 6 sections of 3rd, and 5 sections of 4th.
So if I follow that, that means that either there will be 1 fewer classroom teachers needed or the same number of classroom teachers.
Because of
needed
retirement, we are completely covered and not losing any FTE.
Right, but if you determine that we need 6 sections of kindergarten,
Then we would be a higher, and I believe that's contingent in the budget. But we planned for that as a contingency.
okay, thank you.
So before we jump into looking ahead at our proposed budget, we want to just take a minute to highlight some of the past budget items that have kind of come to fruition this year. So at PDC, we are super excited to be finalizing our instructional coaches and have really been working all year to bring algebra for all to our 8th graders in September. And excuse us for being late, that's where we were talking to our 7th grade families about some of those transitions. Along those same curriculum related lines, we are confident in our transitions and new approaches to science at the middle level and the amplification of the social studies and ELA becoming a humanities interdisciplinary offering in both 7th and 8th grade next year. Our staff has really embraced the creation of elective course offerings. And as we move forward into next year's budget, you'll notice we intend to really maintain and highlight the crucial aspects of what make an effective middle school, things like teaming, social emotional learning, academic supports, enrichment, and of course, student agency and flexible learning spaces.
That being said, if you just go back there, what I'm really happy to speak about tonight, almost in a celebratory manner, is that 3 years ago, we came before this board when the vision map was still in the fledgling stages, and we said what we wanted to do in that vision map. We made a promise to this community that that is where we were gonna be. And tonight, we're saying that we kept to our word, that there was fidelity in what we said. And so there's no bombshells in this budget presentation of new stuff to the fact of, oh, where'd that come from? It's very easily connected to the vision map. And so as we go through this, we'll show you in each of these areas how that relates. And again, I'm very happy to say that if people were following what Steve Walker wrote, what I write, the budget meetings, the curriculum meetings, when we come to these work sessions, they would say that these people are staying true to their word, and the budget process enables them to do that. And that's what I want us to think about tonight as we go through this, and not just for my building, but for all the buildings. So first off, we have reimagining learning. Obviously, last year, we came and we talked about modifications to our schedule, the 0 period, to promote passion-based learning. Obviously, we want to keep that, and we're going to continue to make modifications to scheduling, tweaking things with the feedback of our teachers and other instructional staff. The big piece here on this slide is the fruition of the instructional coaching. And the first thing that I really have to say about that is thank you. Because unlike the other 2 buildings, we're the last ones to implement this. And I say thank you because you gave us the time to build up our support networks and our AIS apparatus at the school so we can do this and continue to support our students. If you recall, 3-4 years ago, PVC had sparse academic support staff. And today we feel we're in a much better place and we can throw ourselves into these other areas because we've taken care of the foundational aspects of learning. For our instructional coaching staff, we will have 2 instructional coaches next year that will work on the elementary level. And due to that, we will hire another FTE in the elementary area to support that. We've been meeting with the coaches or the proposed coaches and talking about how great it is to be the last on the train. Because we get to learn from our colleagues and also develop our own kind of flair in this area. So I'm sure that in the years that follow, in the next year, we will have more and more to say and to report back about the instructional coaching aspect. We also look forward to those coaches and our other colleagues to interact with the people at the high school and the elementary in this endeavor. We also will continue to promote co-teaching in the middle school. Last year, we came before you, we talked about co-teaching opportunities, and we will continue to promote those, whether it be health and fitness, in the interdisciplinary setting of the humanities in the 7th and 8th grade, that will give those teachers more opportunities to help kids make these connections as they did in the 5th and 6th grade. We are on the precipice of redesigning completely science to focus on phenomenon-based science approach. We're very proud of it. And we're in a really good spot. Like tomorrow, we can launch algebra football. Our math teachers have worked diligently, and this budget will support the resources that they need and the materials they need to make sure that that happens. And what more? That our students will have the support that they need to prepare them for that class, and also to ensure that there's safety nets, which we spoke about in previous meetings. We also want to talk about, you know, to use one of Craig's words, piggyback off of what Rachel said.
That's
You know,
one word.
no more, back, all right, that, again, always looking at how we restructure AI, how we structure AIS, how we use our interventionists at the middle school, as well as how we support our E&L students. Obviously, if you've come to the middle school, you'll see that there's flexible, dynamic learning spaces all over the place. You're walking down the hallway, you're like, why is that wall green? Because the 5th graders made it a green screen, that's why. But that's just one of many examples. Obviously, with our student support suite coming online, we want to be very cognizant of the fact that other areas like the flexible support area, as well as the teacher workroom, is all going to come online by next year, and support that as well. We've been working with Ellen. We're a year ahead of schedule in the implementation of a single device at the middle school, where we had Chromebooks and iPads. By next year, everyone will have the iPads, a much more stable, durable, and student-friendly apparatus.
Thank goodness, Gerald.
Durable. Yes. And last but not least, we also have outdoor learning spaces that will be coming online, hopefully over the summer, with our new field and our new outdoor learning space. So now the pursuit of passions.
Yeah.
Nicole already mentioned that since day one of this year, we have spent a lot of time focusing on the development of elective classes, and in collaboration with the elementary school and the high school, we're really looking forward to launching those next year. Obviously, these will require certain resources, excursions, and special items. We know that this budget supports that, and we reassure our colleagues, our teachers, that we will have the finances to support this passion-based learning. Obviously, we will continue the passion pursuit and the pageants, 28th and 29th. And that's what we'll do. Our co-curricular clubs also continue to help middle schoolers at this pivotal age pursue and learn about what their interests are. We have over 20 clubs and co-curricular activities. Don't forget, one of those activities has a wonderful show this weekend at Hendrick Hudson High School. You're all welcome to attend. And it's a great show. It's going to be Peter Pan Jr. And why I identify it, because you can ask my wife, I haven't grown up. We're always very cognizant of how we group our students in the class size. And we want to promote the best combinations of students to create the best learning environment possible. We're going to move on to the next slide.
You stop. So we're talking about,
culture of what?
culture of well-being, right? We're very excited about our mixed grade advisories that have been going really well this year. And they really allow us to dive into our SEL curriculum, practice mindfulness and restorative practices. A highlight of those restorative practices are connection circles that have been woven into the fabric of PVC, not only by staff, but by students alike. So that's exciting, as Michael mentioned, enhancing our flexible support program and our room. So we're very much looking forward to that new space. It's currently under construction and looking very framed out right now, which is kind of cool. So all of these things are helping us make strides in our climate, which we are very aware of, and centering inclusivity at PVC. Continuing to offer those intramurals and co-curriculars, like Michael mentioned. We know are a valuable part of our middle school and really the effective backbone of an effective middle school. So we want to continue to do that. We are also housing our child nutrition program. And so we're partnering with Aramark in a variety of different ways to ensure that our kiddos are all really well cared for and well fed, of course. And lastly, community events. So our internet safety with the Westchester County DA's office and our Kind Works Community Night are just a few examples of ways that we're trying to connect with our families and continue to educate the whole child, specifically during their adolescence in grades 5 through 8.
And support their families.
Them too.
That's very
Them
important. And just to drive the point home, our vision for a middle school within the vision of the vision map, how many times we say vision? All right, is we don't ever want people to forget that the budgetary foundation is aligned with the vision map. That basically we're looking to use our budget responsibly and be good stewards in order to promote innovative teaching and an enhanced feeling of belonging, to encourage our students and our staff to pursue their passions, and to allow the vision to continually evolve. And last but not least, to create an environment that feels good, that is good, that makes people feel welcome, and to know that we're never done with that aspect of our work. And looking forward, we have this slide, which, seemed to create so much questions. I'm just gonna keep going. But as you'll see with this slide, put your hand down. Yeah. It's very similar to CETs with the same thing. And I think what it really illustrates, the overview here is that when you see the minuses and you see the areas that have increased slightly, but you see the overall change, it's a very responsible rendition of what a school budget should be. It's saying what's important, what can we scale back, what can we bring to the forefront to meet the needs of our students, of our staff, and our community. And here in the next slide, you see the salaries and other breakdown. And Denise did a really nice job of explaining all this. And really at this time, the only pie I'm interested is in key lime. Last but not least, obviously our future goals are the ones that we talked about 3 years ago, but we're in a much different place. When you climb up a mountain, the purpose of being on top of the summit is not just to say you got to the summit. It's to say that you see other summits that you're also interested in summiting. And that is where we are. And we also think that, like a postage stamp, you gotta stick to something until you get there. So moving forward, we wanna obviously implement and enhance Algebra for All. We wanna continue this evolution of learning spaces. We want to support and grow. We know it's not a one-year deal, especially with our 7th and 8th graders in terms of the interdisciplinary courses and the thematic work that they'll be doing together. That's important. And next year, we want to focus a lot on aligning more and more our assessments with the vision map and with 21st century skills. We've done a lot of work in that in terms of behaviors that promote learning, the changes to our report card, but we're not done yet. And then, of course, we want to support and integrate our instructional coaches. And while we are going to stand on the shoulders of the other two buildings, we also want this to be a uniquely PVC thing. that we can look back and claim our own victories and successes. And last but not least, I just want to point out that we want to continue our relationship with the community. We've run so many community events, learning walks, senior proms, that we think that is one of the highlights of working at the middle school, is that people in our community know what's going on there. They feel welcome to come into the building and to take part of this great growth. And it's not just a feather in the cap of the middle school, but I would say our whole district. So thank you for your time. And Josh, I really like that jacket.
I don't think we have any questions. Thank you so much.
I want to ask questions about algebra for all because I'll be hearing about that tonight when I get home.
Sure.
The person who went will fill me in. But I wanted to.
I saw him.
Good. I hope you had a good.
He was there.
He was there. Good. So in terms of just to sort of understand, because the idea of having the opportunity to take elective classes in middle school is pretty cool. You've probably talked about this before, and forgive me because it's late, maybe I'm not remembering. But what is sort of like the programmatic thinking behind that in terms of like how is that like the intercession thing that we had talked about before?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to confirm. So it is something, if you could just explain like how it touches all of 7th and 8th grade rather than me trying to articulate it myself from what I remember.
The intercessions?
Well, the elective, like how the electives sort of fit into the schedule for them, because they're not selecting courses across the board for the whole school year,
No.
but you're offering it in a
So
unique way.
what we're talking about with our colleagues is the perfect time of year to initiate this.
Mhm.
We also would like to, obviously, in years that follow, be able to offer courses across buildings, right?
Mhm.
But basically, what we envision is a course catalog where we say to the students sometime in the late fall, here are the offerings. And for them to be able to choose a class or two, because some of the classes would run the whole day, the experience, some of them half the day. And then it would have other implications, which would be mixed grade lunches and so forth. And again, right now, I think we're up to 22 different classes that have been designed learning experiences, from crocheting to outdoor survival skills. And everything in between, financial literacy, and so forth. So again, I think we'll have to do some unpacking with students in small groups, grade level groups, to help them understand what is available. And then we're gonna have a choice menu where obviously, if there's a rush on one class, we'll have to say you need 2 choices or something like that. But where we see this going also is, imagine if high school students one day can offer some of these classes. And imagine a time where middle school kids might be able to design their own classes or learning experiences for kids with proper adult supervision. Does that answer your question, Ms. Butler?
It sure does, but I have one more.
Please.
So just looking actually at the actual budget slide, can you speak to a little bit the change in your co-curricular budget?
Yeah, so we had some clubs that really weren't well attended over the last 3 years. So in order to, dedicate our finances other places, including co-curricular areas, we got rid of those.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
So to follow up, just so I understand, because, I don't have a middle school student in my house anymore. What we're talking about for these interdisciplinary learning courses, you say is like an intersection, which would be a period of time, let's say a week, that you would move away from the traditional.
Yeah, we would
schedule.
put that all on hold.
Put that on hold for a week, and then students would have the choice of, and go to one or another of these interdisciplinary classes.
So last time I spoke with my colleagues, we talked about 3 consecutive days. to do that. Mhm.
So the only other thing I would say, is that it's not really a question, one of your future goals, and I know it keys into some of these other areas, is strengthening assessments to align with the vision map. and 21st century learning, which is not on the slide, but you said it.
Yeah.
And I would just ask that since with all the things that the district is doing, each of the schools, to kind of upset the apple cart or throw things out and try new things, we do want to make sure that that students are at each level are getting the foundations that they need, and the public is gonna ask that question. And I'm just hoping, and I'm expecting that next year, we will hear some of those things from each of our building administrators as to how the assessments connected with all of the great things that you're doing can show that we are, students are gaining those skills. And it's not a question, it's just.
No, well, it's a great statement, Neil, because I think that when we use the word assessment, we're talking about a broad array of things, not just a traditional assessment or a summative assessment, but we're also talking about the use of formative assessments, metacognitive activities to help kids understand where they are in the learning process, to set goals and so forth. But I also think that if you have interdisciplinary classes between ELA and social studies that we call the humanities, that the social studies test that you used in 1979 might not be applicable anymore, right? In its form. And again, I don't see a day where we get rid of all traditional tests. I want our kids to be good at traditional tests and every other type of assessment that there is. But most important is the assessment that is intricately connected to learning, where the kid understands or the children understand that they did learn something, they did accomplish something, and it didn't come at the end of a learning episode that's just a number. But it also was accompanied by a feeling and a gaining in confidence and also an articulation of that student of this is what I was able to do and this is how I grew. And I think that is going to serve our kids in the latter half of the century more than Scantrons.
Well said.
Thank you.
I'm passing this along because I don't want anyone to get any other idea. Thank you very much.
Thank
you. Bring it on home.
Alright, so this time last year, we shared this same visual with you. And today we're using it as a reminder of where we've been, where we're now, and where we're headed. So you can think of it, please, as a delivery on a promise, as well as a continued commitment for the future. Each year is a chapter in a book that tells one story. It's not about how school can be different each year, but rather about how each year we can put pieces into place that enable us to implement this one collective vision. So tonight, we will continue to show you that our budget is not just numbers on a spreadsheet, but rather a strategic investment in one long-term vision that continues to take shape year after year.
So as Erica said, our vision map journey has involved strategically planning for each budget cycle over a series of years. Focused on 26, 27 is sort of our guidepost for being at full capacity to realize the budget, the vision map. Prior to this year, our work was all around setting the stage for professional growth and learning through things like building our instructional coaching program and the curricular work on our first interdisciplinary courses, as well as some additional staffing in math and science. And that's all sort of budgets of the past. So we have all that in place. The 24-25 school year is our year of implementing our interdisciplinary courses, having a well-established coaching program. It's hard to believe we're in year 3 of that already. We added our dual enrollment courses, and we have year 1 of academic concentrations currently happening. We have also fortified our staffing with a social studies position this year. So that's sort of where we're at now. Next year, for the 25-26 school year, we are proposing the addition of an English teacher as well as a school counselor position. And that will finally round out our staffing plan to make the dreams of the vision map a reality. In addition, we are planning, or we're asking to shift the student's position to an assistant principal position, recognizing the importance of internal growth opportunities and the kind of instructional leadership that is needed to grow and sustain the kind of work we're doing at the high school. We'll also be implementing our new high school schedule next year, adding even more interdisciplinary core courses, implementing year-long grading as part of our work on grading and assessment, and utilizing the exciting new spaces, including our Innovative Learning Center that will, fingers crossed, be completed this summer, and working towards our alignment with the New York Inspires plan. So that's through 25-26, and then in 26-27, you can see a preview of that will be sort of the year where the high school stops asking for things. Remember, I said that.
Famous last word.
I think that when we finally get to that point, that will be a year about curricular revision and development, where we'll be implementing our revamped math and science sequences, focusing on growing the experience that we're able to offer students and staff in our new schedules. And we anticipate that we will be beginning the development of new assessments as part of New York Inspires as well. So here I just want to highlight our interdisciplinary courses because that's such an important part of what our budget represents. And how by bringing our 3-year staffing plan to fruition, we can grow even more courses and maintain our current ones. We learned that sort of the timeline from the conception of an idea to building curriculum for these courses is about 18 months. So it was really necessary to have this long-term staffing plan that allowed us to make some pretty rapid progress on this work. I often forget just how much has been done in such a short period of time and by some pretty hardworking teachers. But this list represents the collective work of over 20 teachers and an impact by next year on almost 300 discrete students who will be taking all of these courses. So these 300 students out of our approximately 500 students are having a part of their day spent in interdisciplinary classes for core credit. And that's something that we're all really proud of at CHHS and appreciative that we have the budget to do this for our staff and students. And just wanted to briefly share a bit of some snippets of research and programming from higher education to highlight this work on interdisciplinary courses as something sort of much bigger than CHHS. So there's long-standing academic research around the value of interdisciplinary education and particularly the impact on student outcomes. So you can see a few quotes from the research here, and I'll share some more of these in depth with you in the upcoming weekly if you'd like to read some of them. And you can see some screenshots up here too from 2 top-tier institutions, Duke University and Stanford University, who are among the many highly respected higher education institutions who have interdisciplinary studies and programs as an integral part of their programming. And if you look across the board at almost any higher education institution, this is a part of the fabric of what they do. So we often talk about it as this exciting thing that we're doing at CHHS, but it's part of the broader landscape of what our students are going to be experiencing in higher ed too.
So we've talked previously about our change in the master schedule, and our budget supports that, and our master schedule is intended to support what we're doing in the budget. So it's intertwined in that. So this schedule is being implemented next year, going into effect, with a couple of key things in there that we're including extracurricular time during the school day, and consolidating lunch into a single period, which is sort of facilitated by the intense construction that's going on in the building right now to build a much larger cafeteria and sending us out into the road regularly for fire drills that were planned. But we're looking forward to the next year and, trying all of this out. We're also going to be introducing a once to twice a month Tiger Tuesday that Erica is going to tell you about next.
As Mark explained, one innovative feature of our new master schedule is the introduction of Tiger Tuesdays, which is dedicated time intended to enhance academic engagement, passion-based learning, and experiential opportunities for our students. There will be about 12 to 15 days per school year that follow this special schedule. So on a monthly basis, students will be assigned to or be able to choose in some cases 2 or 3 sessions after their lunch. These modules of time can include opportunities for academic enrichment, such as seminar time for classes, extended science labs, AIS, test center time, musical ensemble practices, and academic concentration and seal of biliteracy meetings and work sessions. Special programs, including guest speakers and field trips, will also be planned. And please note that Student Faculty Congress and CHAP, which were previously held during other days in our cycle, have now will now meet on Tiger Tuesdays. So since all of these sessions are pre-scheduled and integrated into Infinite Campus, students will always know their assigned locations and activities, which should help to ensure a smooth process. And as Mark mentioned, you'll also notice that every day now includes a community lunch. That's an enhancement which is made possible by our expanded cafeteria. As you heard recently, when we presented about the school climate survey, we talked about how having lunch with a friend was one of the most highly rated factors that impacted students' feelings of belonging at PHHS. So to capitalize on this opportunity to create an even stronger sense of community, we plan to include a co-curricular lunch and Tiger Tuesday coordinator who will organize both lunchtime activities and Tiger Tuesday events, which could include recreational activities as well as guest speakers and assemblies. So both of these enhancements, Tiger Tuesdays and community lunch, reflect our ongoing commitment to student-centered learning and to our strong school culture.
So if you look at the numbers on this next slide, you see how college application trends, which are very much in line here at Croton High School with the region. But you see how that has been impacting work that's going on in the school counseling office. And that goes a good part of the ways to explaining the need for additional support in the counseling office. We're building personalized support for students as we do this, looking to increase mental health support, and as well as support during transitions in key years for students. We're targeting an increase for the 9th and 10th graders in individualization. That is one of the areas that through our district-wide committee, we know as part of our evaluative process, it's one of the weaker parts of our plan, and that's directly related to the amount of counseling support that you have. What is a caseload? Directly impacts what you can do for your younger high schoolers. And increasing support for our ENL population, and trying to build better connections with regional representatives from universities and colleges. So all those are goals as part of this. One of the other things we're looking at in the counseling department right now is a program, it's a platform called DBIMA. And we're working to try to implement that actually starting this year with our juniors. And it's a platform that seeks to fill the gap between high school counseling, colleges and universities, and what students already get from the Naviance platform. So specifically what it does is help students build a list of colleges, narrow down that list, and manage all the applications deadlines that come from having a list of 10 colleges that you're applying to. That's a real gap in what Naviance provides for students. So something new this year, it's a new platform that we have not found a peer for. It's filling a gap that we know exists. So we're going to give it a shot.
And here is our breakdown slide. I won't go through all of it unless there are specific questions, but some of the changes you'll see obviously are in guidance services with the addition of a counselor. Some changes sort of in movement of for the social where the social worker salary comes from. And obviously a slight change in supervision to account for the additional the change in administrative position and removing that from the teaching position role. Then finally, just going back to future plans. So next year is all about bringing our new classes, programs, and schedule to fruition with our staffing plan being complete. And then beyond that, there's so much we need to maintain, such as our continued investment in coaching, now with the K-12, and a continued investment in our active learning spaces. This is work that needs to be carried through each year, even if it's no longer something new, but it's really becoming an integral part of our school. So we have to keep making sure that that's featured in our budget. We also know that our future plans include doing quite a bit of in-depth curricular work and revision, particularly with our math and science sequences, much of which has already begun, but it's going to be a long, labor-intensive process. And while we put so much work into our interdisciplinary courses, part of our future planning is that we don't want our interdisciplinary courses to be courses that we keep just because we've always had. We want to be able to have people propose new ones, to rotate courses in and out. We don't want it to turn into another thing that we just stay the same for decades, like so much of what education already has. And we also anticipate that there will be a great deal of work in the very near future on transcripts in conjunction with New York Inspires that will allow our students to show the depth of their learning as they look towards post-secondary options. So it's been an incredibly busy and fulfilling few years at the high school, and we're so appreciative of the support we get through the budget that allows this to all happen. Thank you.
Question. First question. So I noticed that there's a continued upward trend in the number of college applications per student. And I'm not sure whether this is actually a question that anyone in the room can answer, but the question is fundamentally, is that a good thing? Or, I mean, is there any hope that this new platform might help students to better focus their applications on schools where A, that are actually a good fit, and B, that are where they're likely to be successful in their efforts and therefore not have wasted a lot of time writing essays that they don't need to write,
Well,
things like that.
The platform definitely has the possibility of improving, sort of the whole process for students, right? And I think a lot of it has to do with sort of managing. If you think about, what a student has to do in managing 10 different applications, it's a lot of that is just research, right? Like what does each of these 10 schools require as part of their application process, and building that list and timeline of what has to be done. So if there's an efficiency process there, and you can align your essays and try to write essays that will maybe meet requirements from multiple places, right? That's the type of thing that we can benefit from. As to why this is happening, one of the biggest factors is that more and more colleges, in fact, there was just an email sent by our counseling department in the last 24 hours to all of our students about being waitlisted. Colleges are waitlisting more students than ever. And that is, that's influencing future groups of students as they develop their list of colleges to apply to, right? If you get waitlisted, if you know you're going to get waitlisted from a majority of where you apply, you might want to increase the number of schools you're applying to so that you have a better shot at an acceptance, a full acceptance. So the email that just went out today was about how to strategize for your wait list and what steps should you do when you are waitlisted. So, this is the world out there that our students are living in, and the landscape is changing. So, yeah, numbers are going up. It's not just here at Croton High School. Everywhere in the US, numbers of applications are up.
I also note the shocking number of early decision and early action,
Yes.
applications.
That is largely related to, pre-admission
Right,
applications, which are all early through the SUNY schools.
right. Interesting. This isn't really a question specifically for the high school, but rather a general question that applies to both PVC and the high school. Because I wondered if we could get a list of the significant changes to the co-curricular activities. I vaguely remember having a discussion about this at some point over the past few months where there was a list, but I don't think it was final at the time. So I'd be curious to see that. I think that would be. I'm mainly partially out of curiosity and partially to see like how are the interests of our students changing? I think it'd be interesting to see. And presumably. Now, I know that a lot of the stipends, in fact, I think that all of the stipends for co-curriculars are dictated by, are dictated in the CTA contract. And so that has a significant implication. Presumably the Teachers Association has some thoughts about it, which I won't opine on. I had another question, but I don't remember what it is right now, so I will yield.
Can you explain just on the budget chart what the reduction in social work services refers to specifically?
Yes.
So
this is for student assistance.
Yeah, that's
student assistance. So we were working with student assistance services, for some substance, sort of like a substance abuse, New York State grant funded program. So over the last 3 years, we've had so much interruption in service in terms of staffing from that organization.
Yes, okay,
So we've decided not to continue with that.
that makes sense, thank you.
That's the second straight year we've taken funds from SAS and shifted it to hiring our own team
Right.
members. Obviously has several advantages in doing that, in terms of hiring our own people, retaining them, improving their quality and evaluating them ourselves.
I think that's great, it just was a big delta, so I was trying to understand that.
So I have a couple of questions, as you might have. The first is that on your future plans, last bullet talks about expansion of dual enrollment opportunities co-seated with AP courses. Just want to get an understanding of how the opportunities for students to obtain college credit either through AP or through the other programs that we have had will be affected positively or negatively by the changes where I'm talking about in terms of interdisciplinary courses and the other work that's being done.
It's a good question. So there's not really, we're actually continuing to add more dual enrollment courses. So all of our most of our dual enrollment courses, with one exception, are all co-seated with AP courses. So students have the opportunity to attain college credit and from two pathways. And for most of our students, they avail themselves of both pathways because you may as well, particularly for our juniors that are taking them that don't know what's going to college yet. Sometimes for our seniors where they have a sense of where they're going, they can make a better choice about which pathway they go on. But the goal is to have dual enrollment opportunities alongside AP opportunities so that students can do both. So our interdisciplinary classes don't yet have dual enrollment associated with them because there has to be an equivalent college course that then we would have to apply for. And find, so we haven't found as many of those yet, but we haven't reduced and do not plan to ever reduce any of our dual enrollment AP courses. So the interdisciplinary are all in addition to our current course offering.
Okay, so the student who desires to basically look at things, what I will call maybe more traditionally as a college-bound student, trying to get AP credit and or dual enrollment credit, will have those opportunities. They're not being taken away.
Actually, the most of our students who are kind of on that more traditional, I guess, pathway, they often take an interdisciplinary course in addition to their standard set of courses.
So now I have a question that goes to another part of what our responsibility. We've talked a lot about interdisciplinary courses in the district. I just asked about dual enrollment AP, but there's a certain segment of our high school population who are not really looking at that track. And we know that with the Blue Ribbon Commission and the heightened emphasis that we will hear on career and technical education, which may lead to college or may not, with BOCES providing programs. Can you speak to how? I mean, I know that adding a counselor will allow the school counseling department to be better able to meet the needs of those students because there will be more counselors to help know what's going on. But can you talk a little bit about how we will in the future be serving that segment of our high school population?
So I think it's still a little foggy from New York Inspires on exactly what they're looking for in terms of that CTE requirement. We've heard a lot of different things about that, down to even allowing you to count what you do in the middle school in terms of CTE to count towards high school. So that part's probably the least clear in the New York Inspires plan. Obviously, we still plan to support our students going to the CTE programs and BOCES. And we get more and more applications for that every year, so it's becoming increasingly a popular option. So I think that the answer is we're not sure yet what that is going to look like from the New York Inspires standpoint.
And I think two important points too is thinking about our interdisciplinary classes. It was important to us to make that available to all students. So we do have the American History through Literature, which is a special class that is taught by two teachers. In addition, the concentration program, some of those classes on all of it says if you are in a particular program at BOCES, a VOTEC program that fits in with one of those concentrations, those count towards your academic concentration as well. So I think we are thinking about our entire population as we're coming up with all of these innovative programs to make sure it's available to everyone in some form.
Okay, I just want to, I asked that question here as being wearing the other hat. I know that BOCES is talking about the need to expand capacity at BOCES for career and technical education.
We would love that.
And we know that, you probably heard that, we'll probably be talking maybe about that when we go to our regional education sessions next month in May. And so it's just, I don't want to forget that part of our population.
We're happy to. This was a hard year.
I just have one quick question with respect to assessments, and to your point, Mr. Maxson, regarding all the waitlisted students, right? So key to some of their continued process while they're in limbo is that they have to report, or it's helpful sometimes for them to report their senior grades mid-year. Can you just speak to how the year-long grading, how would that impact them? I mean.
Well, wouldn't impact their ability to report.
Right.
We can produce reports at any point for colleges, and we do and will, right? That's the plan, and we have students we have some pilot classes going this year. We have seniors in those classes that have year-long grade books, and we did their mid-year reporting, And it's really, having a year-long grade book doesn't stop you from knowing where you stand in any class at any moment, right? And therefore we can report it, right? It's just a little bit different of a concept in terms of, kind of how the grade is calculated through the year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think this presentation really reflects some of the concerns that we've heard as a board regarding the changes that are happening at the high school. So I mean, well done. This is just really informative, I think. And hopefully our community finds it informative as well.
I would add that I think at each of the schools, what we're doing and how each of the schools are going to tie that in, and we're asking, I would ask, tie that in to ensuring that our students are, to the greatest extent possible, achieving core competencies while, as Mr. Plotkin said, having a joyful and, I will say, unique educational experience that will serve them in, in higher grades and then outside of, after they leave our system is what, I appreciate, and I certainly want to hear more about.
I also wanted to add just something, I think for me today, just to be able to hear, to be able to look at the budget for the upcoming year with the context of the last 3 years was really, that was really very, very helpful. Because I think we have gotten now a real view to what those changes in expenditures resulted in concretely on a year-by-year basis. And I think to your point, this is something that this group has talked about, the administrative team has talked about, that goals and planning and budgeting should not be on a year-by-year basis, but a multi-year basis. But what I liked about this conversation a lot was not just the multi-year ahead, but also sort of that multi-year look back. Because I think at least for me, I feel like it was very helpful context. And I would say, yes, I think congratulations on, promises made and promises kept. So thank you for that.
You didn't like the postal stamp analogy?
Sure. Comment, because I didn't know where you were going with it.
Oh,
I
So is that-
That's just, after 9 o'clock, I'll say it's.
I just want to say, as somebody who grew up on 80s TV, right, there was a time when I watched the A-Team a lot. Plan comes together. Feels like it's an appropriate thing to say tonight. And to Monica's point, and to several points, we've been talking about these things in the vision for several years, and what you see tonight is evidence of, in several ways, kind of a culmination of some initial work there and some planning that's happened for the past 3 years, and then a glimpse into what we see as next. And I would just say to the people watching, to the people who look at these slides, take these slides and compare them to almost any other school district's budget presentation from their leadership team and tell me how much comparability there is, right? The level of innovation and creativity that is happening in this district is continues to just be stunning to me. And it's in certainly no small part because of the 8 people you heard from tonight. So outstanding job, man. Outstanding job. Have a great night. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
We're just gonna wait for the next, but, agenda item. Is that okay?
Next one.
The next agenda item?
Oh, yeah.
Then we'll get up and leave, like, in.
Or you can stay.
No, thanks.
Our next summit.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Item 3.1. A memorandum of agreement with the Indians of Croton United. Recommended action, whereas negotiations have been ongoing between the bargaining team for the Croton Harmon Union Free School District and the bargaining team for the aides of Croton United, NYSUT, AFT, NEA, for a successor to the 2021 through 2024 agreement between the parties. And whereas those negotiations have resulted in a tentative agreement contained in a memorandum of agreement dated March 20th, 2025, which has been ratified by the membership of the unit. And whereas the Board of Education of the Croton Harmon Union Free School District has reviewed the terms of the memorandum of agreement and finds that a settlement consistent with the terms contained therein is in the best interest of the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Croton Harmon Union Free School District hereby approves and ratifies the terms of the aforesaid memorandum of agreement and hereby authorizes the superintendent of schools and the board president to execute a collective bargaining agreement consistent with the terms thereof.
So moved.
Second.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. I want to thank both negotiating teams and everyone involved in this process. Moving to item 3.2, 2025-2026 vehicle proposition resolution. Recommended action, be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves the vehicle proposition resolution as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 3.3. The 2025-2026 notice of annual meeting and budget hearing. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the 2025-2026 notice of annual meeting and budget hearing as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving into instructional personnel. Item 4.1, recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby accepts the instructional personnel resignation of Kiara Herbert, 5th grade ELA teacher at Pierre Van Cortlandt Middle School, effective April 21st, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
With regret.
Abstained? Motion carries. Item 4.2, instructional personnel recommendation leave replacement. Recommended action, be it resolved that Gina Bianco be appointed to a 1.0 leave replacement position for Kiara Herbert as a 5th grade ELA teacher at Pierre Van Cortlandt Middle School, effective April 7th, 2025 through June 27th, 2025, subject to continued need unless terminated earlier by the Board of Education and compensated at an annual salary of $60,403 BA Step 1 to be prorated.
But before we move that, and actually have a motion, I'm just wondering, it is denominated as a leave replacement. But we have accepted Ms. Herbert's resignation. So wouldn't it more, since she's not on leave, wouldn't it be more appropriate? And I just thought of this, to be denominated as a long-term sub hiring at the same, in the same manner.
I don't think that leave has to be temporary, right? It's just leave for the rest of the year.
Well, except she's not on leave. You know, normally we have a situation where somebody is on leave, whether a terminal leave for the rest of the year or something, but she's actually resigned. She's not on payroll, so it's not like she's on leave. I don't know if that makes a difference.
This is a fairly standard practice for us when someone resigns in the middle of the year. Typically, the conversation is it probationary or is it a leave of some kind? And so our collaboration with the CTA allows us to list these as leaves, because to recruit and hire for a probationary position at this point would be
Right.
intensive. So this is our standard practice.
Okay, so it's not a leave because we said Ms. Herbert is departing, but that's what we denominate.
That's the category we got in.
Okay, that's fine, all right, so I'll move it since I made all the fuss.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Item 4.3, instructional personnel unpaid leaves of absence. Recommended action be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves the following instructional personnel unpaid leaves of absence as presented.
So. I'll,
I did.
You'll second.
Thank you.
yes.
There you go.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Moving on to our donations. Item 5.1, donation from the American Legion, Box Ekloff, Post 505, for 2 Croton Harmon High School 2025 scholarships. Recommended action be it resolved that the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation in the amount of $1,000 from the American Legion, Box Ekloff Post 505, as a contribution to the Dominic Antifiatro Memorial Scholarship and the Madeline G. Dobbs Memorial Scholarship, $500 each at Croton Harmon High School for 2025.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 5.2. Donation of David Hackenberg and Catherine Montgomery Greg Rodriguez Scholarship Fund. Recommended action be it resolved that the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation in the amount of $100 from the David Hackenberg and Catherine Montgomery from David Hackenberg and Catherine Montgomery as a contribution to the Greg Rodriguez Scholarship Fund at Croton Harmon High School for 2025. This donation is managed under the purview of the Croton Harmon High School Student Faculty Congress.
So moved. Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you for your generous donations. Item 6, we move into our consent agenda. Item 6.1, approval of the consent agenda. Recommended action, be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves all the items under the consent agenda, and I'll give my fellow trustees a moment to review anything.
I'll move it.
We had a correction to the consent agenda, so to move item 6.14 off the consent agenda.
No, we can just
No.
edit this.
No, you just edit that because the actual motion is to adopt with the proper date, it's just a typo in the subject matter,
The heading.
the heading, so it's fine.
In the.
So you.
We just need to correct the, can we
Oh,
amend?
correcting the agenda,
Yeah,
not
to
the actual
correct the
item.
agenda. On 6.14, it should be the minutes for March 13th, 2025 in the subject line and in the recommended action.
All right.
Okay, I'm still writing 2023.
So we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Moving into our close of our meeting. The board will be moving into an executive session, items after which we will immediately, leave executive session and adjourn the meeting. But we will, the televised portion of this meeting, or recorded portion of this meeting. So thank you everyone who watched tonight and who was here. Recommended action. Be resolved, the Board of Education hereby enters into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular person or persons.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all in favor? Motion carried. The board moves into session at 10:07 p.m.